Yeah. So the number one question that you get asked the most is, how did you get started in this business?
Yeah, I got started with community theater when I was like 4 years old. I remember my parents were in a community theater production of Guys and Dolls, and they couldn't afford a babysitter all the time. It's both teachers, and taking me and my brother to rehearsals, and we would just be sitting in the seats in the back. And but I wanted to I wanted to be on stage and wanted to be up there and just on stage doing the things that my parents were doing. And the next show they were doing at that theater was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And they wanted my dad to be in the band for the show, and he said, "Yeah, sure, if you put my kid in the show." So they put me in the kids choir for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
But they thought that since he was only 4 years old, that his attention span would not be long enough, and that he would just be in maybe a couple of the numbers. Well, his attention span was long enough. He learned all of the songs, all of the choreography, all 27 colors of Joseph's coat before any of the adults did, and he was in the whole show and kind of stole it when he was 4 years old.
I don't still remember the colors though, so yeah. But yeah, and then one thing led to another. I wanted to just keep doing stuff on stage, so I did a couple of shows at my local church. I really wanted to audition for the big kid parts, which you had to be 8 to audition for, and I was, I think, like 5 or 6.
It was kindergarten through 6th grade.
Yeah.
And they always gave the speaking parts to the 6th graders, but you were like, I want a speaking part.
Yes. And I got it. I got one of the speaking parts. And yeah, thanks, Nelson. It was great. And after that, some of the people at those shows were going up to my parents and telling them, "Hey, you should probably look into getting him an agent or something." And my parents knew nothing about that side of the business or any sort of getting into commercials or whatever else. So it was a whole other process.
Yeah. This was like 2006, I think, before social media, before I could just go online and go, I don't know how to do film, can you help me? So I got online and I found a forum for parents of actor kids and just started reading and watching what all of these parents were saying. And there was one mom in particular who was from Atlanta, and she talked a lot on the forum, and she knew a lot. So, I could tell she had daughters, so I thought, I am not a threat to her because she has girls and I have a boy, so I'm going to be her friend.
No competition. I will not auditioning for the same roles.
Right. So I reached out to her privately, and she became my mentor, and we're still friends today. It turns out we were sorority sisters at University of Georgia, and we didn't know it till we ended up meeting years later, but now she's one of the prominent headshot photographers here in Atlanta. Her name is Tracy Page. But she was the one who took me under her wing and showed me, how to do this and got us our first big agent, which was Barbara Garvey. Where are you, Barbara?
There she is.
It was called Coastal Talent Kids back then. There was actually a different agent. The first agent was there for about a year, but Barbara was the one who really did everything for us, and we love her. So that was how it got started. And then, so before you got into the big films, what did you do?
So I got Barbara's my agent. I did I did a Roofs to Go commercial, which was awesome. Yeah, I did a Cox Communications commercial. Remember, I had to toss a baseball. That was about it. We did 36 takes of one of the scenes. I remember that so clearly because I was like, why are we doing this 36 times of the same angle? And it was like, it's crazy. And then I booked a couple of movies, which was really, really cool. One of them was called The Wronged Man. It was a Lifetime TV movie. And at the same time, I booked another movie called Get Low with a bunch of A-list actors that me being like 8 years old 9 years old, had no idea who Robert Duvall was, or Bill Murray, or Sissy Spacek. And had to film both of them at the same time. And one of them wanted to cut my hair, and the other one didn't want to cut my hair. And
So it was 1970s,
Yeah.
and the other one was like 1920s.
yeah,
So yeah, it was very difficult
Yeah.
dealing with and scheduling.
yeah. I was also in 4th grade. Yeah.
And I was teaching, and I was working on a master's degree, and it was insane. And thankfully, my father and stepmom are here somewhere. They're right there in the middle. My dad had just retired, so he had to take over some days. I was on set with you know, taking my personal days. His dad was on set with him, taking his personal days. It was tough.
Yeah. And then it kept getting tough because after that, those two awesome projects, I went on for the next year and a half or so of not really booking anything really, and it was a lot of getting out of work early to take me to auditions and whatnot, and it was putting a lot of strain on my family. So it was getting to the point where we were like, okay, let's maybe not do this anymore. And then I got an audition for The Walking Dead. And it was just another just shot in the dark audition, just lumped in with the million of other auditions that I was doing at the time for other awesome projects. And they called me back a couple months later, and they called me back again another month later. And it was around that time that we figured out that the executive producer for The Walking Dead, Galen Hurd, was also the executive producer on that Lifetime TV movie I did a couple years ago, The Wrong Men. And which gave me a great in that oh, okay, great, his parents aren't crazy, they're great to work with and are, good and easy and he can, be okay on set, he's not going to be bouncing off the walls and everything. And then I booked the role.
Which tells you how important it is to be a good parent on set, because not all parents are good parents on set. And you learn very quickly where your place is on set, and it's the furthest place away from where anything is happening. You're always in someone's way. I learned to befriend the hair and makeup people and sit with them, and I knew I'd be out of the way if I was with hair and makeup. You learn bring your own chair, because they'll provide him a chair. He's treated like royalty. I'm the person they don't want to see and they don't want to hear. So you learn very quickly where your place is in the hierarchy of film sets.
But that first season of The Walking Dead, it wasn't like all, it was a low budget production for that first season. We shot it over the summer of 2010. None of us thought that we were going to renew for a second season. And I went back to school, and that was kind of it. Until we heard that we got picked up for a second season, decided to get homeschooled for a bit, and it kind of just tells itself from there. It just keeps picking up and gets bigger and bigger.
So talk about school for a minute, because people ask us a lot, how did you do school? Did you have to be homeschooled? How do you do school on the set? How did school work?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled for a bit, but I wanted to go back to public school because I was losing my mind being, at school, or not at school, out with my friends. And but schooling on set, they have a bunch of really strict rules with it. You have to have if you are working for consecutive days, you have to have a certain amount of hours of schooling done, but you can go over that and bank hours and then use banked hours on different days. It's super complicated and it's crazy, but it's designed to help kids, still progress in school and still get, do both whatever work that they're doing and also do school at the same time. It's not an easy task whatsoever, and I wish there were better ways to do it, but it was really great because when I wanted to go back to school, it was definitely going to be a big shift because now it's no longer, okay, I can just go off and go online and do my school on set. Now it's, okay, I have to work with my teachers, I have to work with principals, and if I can only miss 7 days of school during the school year, how is that going to work? So the production actually worked it out with the school superintendent and then, with the county and everything, that I could miss up to 30 days of school in a semester, which was amazing. And as long as I kept up my grades, obviously I wasn't failing classes, I could do both the show and do school. It worked out really well.
And another interesting thing was, my husband and I were both teachers. So during season 1, they did bring in a studio teacher that was a California studio teacher who wasn't our favorite person. And so we thought, well, I'm a teacher, William's a teacher. One of us has to be here anyway on set. So we went to production and said, can you hire us? And they were like, yeah. So William, Chandler's dad, ended up retiring early and was the studio teacher. Well, we shared the responsibilities the rest of season 1, which was just a few weeks. And then season 2 and 3, his dad was on set with him. And then after that, I was on set from season 4 on as a studio teacher. And they said, you don't just teach your son, you teach any of the other kids. And we're like, okay, we got it, that's fine. So yeah, it worked out really well. So because you just don't think one of the parents has to quit their job to be on set with their child. So thankfully, we got a salary too, because otherwise we would have just been out of luck and had nothing. So that did work out.
Production was a huge fan of it too, because we would on the side we kind of we would be totally honest with all of the hours of schoolwork. Yes, it was an hour and a half drive down to set, hour and a half drive back. I'd get all my schoolwork done on the drive, so we would be totally honest with all of the hours of schooling that was done.
How?
We were the AD's best friends. Yes, sorry.
Made it work. So thinking about The Walking Dead, because that was obviously the biggest project that you have done, how did the show change your life?
I mean, it was such a gradual increase in in popularity of the show. It wasn't just like a light switch of just overnight and that's it. It was every year it was a little bit more people would recognize me out at restaurants or whatever. Or one more person would yell "Coral" at me walking from class to class. So it was it wasn't just like an overnight thing. But the coolest thing though is getting people coming up to me and saying that my work that I did on a random hot day in Georgia, where I was probably only half conscious because my brain was thinking about whatever AP Physics test I had coming up and trying to remember the lines that I had for the scene. The work that I did on that day, helped them so much, or helped them get through whatever crazy hard thing they were going through in their lives, and has helped them in some way. And so I think that's the coolest. And it's really a lot of you guys are filmmakers, a lot of you guys are in the business. It's things like that remind you why that we're doing this in the first place. It's not just to give whatever sort of fame or recognition, it's to impact people in some way. It's to tell stories that people care about, that people want to watch and continue watching and be a part of, and take themselves out of their own terrible stuff that they're dealing with in their own lives and just be in another place for a little while. So it's, that's the coolest part of just how it's changed my life. Yeah.
So you were on the show for 8 seasons. How did you find out that your character was getting killed off?
Yeah, so...
Spoiler alert. If you haven't watched the show,
7 years.
You're way behind.
Yeah, it's been 7 years, guys. So it was, I just signed on for another few years on the show, and I had bought a house down near the set. I was going to go to University of Georgia, not Auburn, by the way. A lot of people think I went to Auburn. Going to go to University of Georgia, and had my whole life kind of set up and ready to go for the next 4 years, and then I got the phone call that my character was getting killed off. And I had about a week of my life to switch gears and figure out just okay, do I want to go to University of Georgia and spend however many $100-something thousand on a sociology degree that I'm not going to use in acting whatsoever? Or do I move out to LA and try to continue to pursue acting and try to just really ingrain myself in this business and keep momentum from getting filled with the show, and that's what I decided to do. Decided to move up to LA and do that. So I finished up my run on the show. I canceled my my UGA admission, and yeah, did that.
So you moved to LA when you were 18 years old. It was so hard. Luckily by then we had met a lot of people who lived in LA, and I knew a lot of moms who lived in LA, so when we went out to move him there, I met with every mom that we knew and had lunch with them, and they all were, we'll take care of him, we promise. If he needs anything, let us know. And luckily he's been very well taken care of. He has a great team out there who's done really well with him. So tell them a little bit about what happened once you moved out there. What'd you do next?
I moved to LA, and I got into just other aspects of entertainment. Did music for a little bit. I did some DJing and played some shows around the U.S. And it was awesome, so much fun. I still produce music to this day. Do audio, sound engineering for my production company, and all sorts of stuff. I did a show up in Vancouver for a little while, which was awesome. A Million Little Things. The name of the show was great. And then COVID hit, and it was dead for years. And it was just such a weird time, and just pumping out audition after audition after audition, and just hoping to just do more cool things, just be a part of more cool projects. And
that's something that people think, oh my gosh, you were on the #1 rated television show. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna book everything. And we found out that's not the case. There's a lot of talented people out there, and back at the grind.
Yeah, it's just how it is. It's just doing everything that you can to like really set yourself, at just a next level, and also just kind of knowing that like most of the time you're just not gonna be right for the role. There's so many cases where there's literally nothing that you can do direction-wise that you could have taken, in that self-tape to get exactly what the director's wanting. It's just not right for you. And it's a hard pill that like I had to kind of like swallow all the time, that I'm really not right for everything that I submit for. So it's been interesting. But and then I got an email with the subject title "Breakup Season," which is awesome because that's the film that I'm here for. The film is going to be showing here in a bit, which is super cool. And I got to go to LeGrand for a few weeks and just be reminded of just how awesome it is to be on an indie set. Just be on a set where like everyone there cares so much about like the story, and they're all taking pay cuts, and they all just are there to just like be a part of this awesome story and help tell it in the best way possible. And that's been just like it's just a crave of me to continue to be on sets like that.
What has So comparing your experiences as a child actor into being an adult actor, what are the biggest differences? What's the best thing about it? What is the worst thing about having your mother with you?
Well, not having parents on set. That was a big one for me. My first thing that I had done as an adult was A Million Little Things, I was 19, and in Canada the drinking age is 19. So the first thing that I did with the cast was go out to a bar with the cast, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Because the whole time when I was on Walking Dead, I could never go and hang out with all the adults because they, go out and drink, and I was 14 years old. And so like to get to like go and like bond with the cast in a completely different and adult way was so cool. So that's one thing. The other thing is hours are a lot longer. You can only work 9.5 hours if you're under 16, 10.5 if you're over 16. And when you're an adult, obviously there is zero limit to the amount of hours you can work as a cast member. So that was a big shift. It's like, okay, I don't get to go home at 10.5 hours. I got to stay here for the full 14, 16-hour day. Yeah, it's a lot. But at the same time, though, like having having started a production company and like done stuff of my own and like everything, the cast has like it's so easy compared to the crew. Like the crew, they're there, you know, way before call time, and they're there way after call time. So, I mean, how many of you guys have been crew members on projects? Yes, yes. Shout out to you guys.
Chandler has started his own production company, and we'll quickly talk about that. You are now learning more about the other side of the camera. How has having your own production company affected you as an actor?
Yeah, well, so getting to be behind the camera, having shot the scene, having lit the scene, having run sound for a scene, having pulled focus for a scene, it's and having directed the scene, it's like there's an edited and did all the sound engineering and post. It's like having done all of that stuff. Now it's like I as an actor, there's like just this like little awareness in the back of my head. It's like okay, like it's hypercritical that I feel the light on my face, that I hit the mark exactly where it is. If I know what f-stop the lens is at, I know not to move forward and backwards too much. If I know what focal length the lens is at, I know not to like move my head around too much, because if my performance can't be captured, it means nothing. So it's like really and voice of just levels for sound. So it's all really like valuable information that's just been kind of in the back of my head. So any actors out there, highly recommend you guys like shoot your own stuff, for just try it out and see how it is, because it's super helpful in being on set and just being like a team player. When you're able to talk to the camera department about like lenses and everything, and like or talk to the gaffer about lights. It's like you're a team player, and you're there to like help everyone else, and then everyone else is there to help you. It's a really cool, yeah.
We have sped through a lot of this, and I didn't get to a lot of the questions, but if anyone out there has specific questions, we didn't talk a whole lot about Walking Dead, because I don't know if the whole audience is Walking Dead fans, but if you have specific questions, we have a microphone down here with Richard, and he's happy to let you ask the question.
Just on a quick aside, I will say, she's a great on-set teacher. I used her on one of my films with all my kids. They were teenagers, Game Changer. And I said I used you on one of my films as a teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, I said you were a great on-set teacher. I highly recommend her if she's still there.
Hi, my name is Matt. I just have a question. This is sort of like a morbid curiosity, but was it a little unnerving having to watch your son on set every day in a show that like is renowned for its gore?
That is a good question. We questioned our choices about letting him be on the show a lot. The zombie part was just cool. He had played video games, for zombie video games, but seeing the extras who were the zombies on set was fascinating to him. We would eat lunch with them. We felt sorry for them because it was really hard to eat because of their mouth stuff. It was
really hot too.
And it was very realistic in person as well. Yes, and it was so hot. Like, you felt so sorry for them. As far as the zombie part, that was just fun. But he mentioned very briefly that he was homeschooled and then he needed to go back to school. There were reasons. I mean, he was on an adult set with adult situations. There were no other children in his life at all. So we felt like it was time to figure out a school situation, and thankfully, public schools welcomed him back. Good question.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo, and how did you get to participate in the movie, like the series?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. We don't have a long record. Sorry to hear you.
How did you get to participate in the Walking Dead series?
Oh, how did I participate in the show?
How did you first get cast?
Oh, how did I first get cast? Well, yeah. So it was just a round of auditions.
I had a great agent who submitted him.
Yeah, so if you're trying to get into the business and the industry, that's the best place to start. Is an agent, and they'll submit you for stuff, and you send yourself out on tape, and then send yourself out on tape again for callbacks, and you go from there.
And if there are any actors who who are looking for submission or looking to submit themselves with an agency. Barbara Garvey is going to be here tomorrow from what time? Where is she?
She has been in the schedule, but it's tomorrow and Sunday. She has 2 meet and greets.
Tomorrow and Sunday, there are 2 meet and greets, and you can bring your headshots. If you're already a professional actor and you're looking for representation, tomorrow and Sunday.
Can I ask a question about how it looks seeing your son on a scary movie? When you got shot by that arrow and he was racing you, I remember saying to Gina, "You should have born for me." Because it's so believable, it's so traumatizing.
And I will tell you, because I was on set when that happened, season 2, and he never wanted me to be near him or he could see me. So I remember it was after he had been shot and they brought him into the farmhouse, and you started screaming out and
Having a seizure.
having a seizure, that's what it was. And I was in the basement where craft services was, just hanging out where he couldn't see me. And after a certain amount of time of them doing it over and over again, I was like, I'm just gonna go up to Video Village where all the video monitors are, and I'll just watch a couple of takes. And I remember Denise, who was one of the producers, she turned around when she saw me there, and she's like, are you gonna be okay watching this? And I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, I know it's pretend. But seeing him and hearing your child scream and seeing him, like, the tears just, like, it was just instinct. And she turned around and she's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, good, we're just gonna go I was fine, but it was just like instinct, hearing your child scream and seeing that. It looked like he was doing a really good job acting. Any other questions?
What was the hardest part about like filming and remembering lines, especially with school going on?
And you know, it was kind of just commonplace, you know, to be doing school and the show and learning lines. Also, it helped that it was an ensemble. I didn't have a ton of lines every day. I think just like the hardest part was just like the, I don't really know, the heat. You know, it was some really hot days. We were in the woods every day on location, and yeah. But I mean, to be honest, like it was such an awesome cast and an awesome crew that gave 100% every single day. So it didn't really. There wasn't any that. There weren't that many like hard parts about it. You know, it was a really well-run machine. Yeah, it was great.
How did you deal with conflict between the like directors and showrunners on set?
You know, so the showrunners, I feel like it's probably like this on most sets. They really aren't on set all that much. They're you know, running the show, but at the end of the day, they're just the head writer. Like they're kind of steering the ship. It's different when showrunners are the directors as well, that they're like on there all the time. But in our case, it was they were just the head writer, and it wasn't really that big of a deal for like conflict wise. I mean, everyone was pretty much on the same page. They hired like some amazingly talented directors throughout the run of the show. There were a couple of hiccups with the showrunner situation in seasons 2 and season 3, but they got it figured out and got it all good to go starting on season 4. So it really wasn't that bad. And on set, like they kind of shielded us from any of those issues as well, and the whole crew from those issues. So it was really just all like upper level stuff that didn't affect us or didn't affect the production. It just affected like the management of it. Yeah.
Maybe one more question?
Hey there. So out of curiosity, from memory, were there any scenes that you really had to reshoot the most?
Man. You know, in television, you really don't get the chance to reshoot things very much ever. So it's it was pretty rare that we went back and reshot things. We might go back for additional coverage in a scene, but it was very, very rare that we would actually reshoot an entire scene for whatever reason it would be, like for, you know, I mean, in film, you know, it happens pretty often for whatever lighting reason or continuity reason, but it's, yeah, we didn't have to do it all that much, luckily, on Walking Dead.